Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Legends and Lies, and today we're diving into one of the more uncomfortable and dark sides of Hollywood's golden age. While we often think of stars like Marilyn Monroe, Ava Gardner, and Elizabeth Taylor as the epitome of glamour and sophistication, many actresses were subjected to extreme scrutiny, especially when it came to their sexuality. In today's video, we'll explore how the media and Hollywood studio system exploited, shamed, and sensationalized female sexuality. Let's dive in. The golden age of Hollywood was a time of immense star power, but it was also a time when female actresses were held to impossibly high standards. Their personal lives were often put under a microscope, and their sexualities were frequently exploited by the press and the studios that controlled them. This was especially true for women who dared to step outside the conventional mold of purity and virtue. Marilyn Monroe. Let's start with one of the most iconic figures in Hollywood history, Marilyn Monroe. Monroe was a sex symbol, but her image was carefully constructed by the studio system. While she was often depicted as the dumb blonde, in reality, Monroe was highly intelligent and wanted to be taken seriously as an actress. But it was her image as a sexually liberated woman that the media latched onto. Monroe's relationships, particularly her marriages to baseball legend Joe DiMaggio and playwright Arthur Miller, were scrutinized by the press. Her reputation as a nymphomaniac was often sensationalized, with tabloids using her image to sell stories about her supposed promiscuity. But the truth is, Monroe was a woman who struggled with her own mental health, and the pressure of being constantly sexualized took a toll on her. Ava Gardner. Next up is Ava Gardner, one of the most beautiful and talented actresses of her time. Ava was known for her fiery personality, but the media often used her personal life as fodder for scandal. Her marriage to actor Frank Sinatra was a particularly juicy piece for the tabloids. Gardner's relationships with men were often sensationalized, and she was portrayed as a seductress who couldn't be tamed. This portrayal was rooted in the stereotype of the fallen woman, a trope often used to punish women for embracing their sexuality. Despite this, Gardner was known for her independence and strength, but Hollywood rarely allowed her to define herself outside of her relationships with men. Elizabeth Taylor. Then there's Elizabeth Taylor, whose love life was as public as her acting career. Taylor was married 8 times to 7 different men, and each of these marriages was scrutinized by the media. The press loved to paint Taylor as a woman who couldn't settle down, but in reality, she was a woman who struggled with love and loss in a very public way. Her relationship with actor Richard Burton was one of the most famous love affairs in Hollywood history, but it also became fodder for the press, which sensationalized their passionate and tumultuous relationship. Taylor's multiple marriages and sexual relationships were often framed as a reflection of her wild nature, rather than recognizing her as a complex woman navigating personal and professional challenges. Lana Turner. Another actress whose sexuality became a public spectacle was Lana Turner. Turner's life was filled with drama, both on and off the screen. She was involved in a highly publicized relationship with mobster Johnny Stompanato, which ended with his tragic death at the hands of her daughter, Cheryl Crane. Turner's scandalous relationships were often used against her, and she was frequently labeled as a temptress or a homewrecker. The media used her personal life to distract from her acting talent, and her reputation as a woman who was too sexual for her own good became a hallmark of her career. Jane Mansfield. Jane Mansfield was another actress who became a symbol of sexuality in the 1950s. Her large bust and provocative outfits made her an object of desire in the eyes of the public, but she was often mocked and vilified for her overtly sexual image. Mansfield struggled to be taken seriously as an actress, as the media often reduced her to a sex bomb image. She was frequently compared to Marilyn Monroe, but where Monroe was often portrayed as innocent, Mansfield was painted as a woman who used her sexuality to get ahead in Hollywood. Rita Hayworth. Lastly, we have Rita Hayworth, one of the most glamorous stars of the Golden Age. While Hayworth was one of the highest-paid actresses of her time, her personal life was anything but glamorous. She was married 5 times and had several high-profile relationships that were often sensationalized by the press. Hayworth's famous role in Gilda became emblematic of her image as a femme fatale, and she was often reduced to this one-dimensional portrayal of sexual power. But in reality, Hayworth struggled with her own personal demons, including battles with depression and her troubled marriages. The media's portrayal of her as a seductress obscured the complexities of her true self. Jean Harlow, known as the original blonde bombshell, was one of the most famous sex symbols of the 1930s. Harlow's career was marred by scandal, and her personal life was often overshadowed by her image as a sexually liberated woman. Harlow's controversial relationships, including her marriage to MGM producer Paul Byrne, who tragically died under mysterious circumstances, were heavily publicized. The media often sensationalized her as a vamp, making her one of the most sexualized actresses of her time. Carol Landis. Carol Landis was another star whose career was overshadowed by scandal. Landis was known for her beauty, but her tragic end, she died from an overdose at the age of 29, was in part a result of the pressures placed on her by the public. She had several high-profile relationships, including with married actor Rex Harrison, which caused a stir in the press. Landis was often portrayed as a woman who couldn't control her desires, and the media's obsession with her personal life overshadowed her acting career. Dorothy Dandridge. Dorothy Dandridge was one of the first African-American women to break into Hollywood's mainstream, but she was often typecast into roles that reflected racial stereotypes. Despite her immense talent, her personal life was scrutinized, and her relationships were often sensationalized. Dandridge's relationship with director Otto Preminger and her struggles with racism in Hollywood were not fully recognized during her lifetime, and she was often reduced to the tragic mulatta stereotype. Mae West. Finally, we can't forget Mae West, one of the most controversial figures of the 1930s. Known for her risque humor and bold sexual innuendos, West was a trailblazer, but she was also subjected to intense scrutiny by both the public and the Hollywood studios. West was unapologetically sexual in her films, and her provocations were often met with moral outrage. But in a world where women were expected to be demure and passive, West's boldness was both empowering and scandalous. Lana Turner. Lana Turner was another actress whose personal life was overshadowed by her image as a seductress. Known for her beauty and acting talent, she was often linked to scandalous relationships, including her marriage to mobster Johnny Stompanato. Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman was one of the most respected actresses of her time, but her affair with director Roberto Rossellini caused a media frenzy. When she became pregnant with Rossellini's child, she faced harsh criticism, and her career took a hit as a result of the scandal. Zsa Zsa Gabor was married 9 times and was known for her glamorous lifestyle. The media often sensationalized her love life and relationships, making her a symbol of Hollywood excess and the sexual liberation of women. Kim Novak. Kim Novak was a major star in the 1950s, but her career was often overshadowed by rumors about her personal life and relationships. She was frequently discussed in the tabloids and often compared to other actresses like Marilyn Monroe. Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara Stanwyck was a versatile actress known for her strong performances, but her personal life, particularly her marriage to actor Robert Taylor, was often a topic of gossip. She was also linked to several high-profile relationships. Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake was a famous starlet known for her sultry image, but her personal struggles with alcohol and her tumultuous relationships were widely publicized. Ann Sheridan. Finally, Ann Sheridan, often called the Oomph Girl, was known for her sultry persona. Despite her strong screen presence, she was often reduced to her sexual appeal, and her personal life was frequently the subject of gossip. The women of Hollywood's golden age were often held to impossible standards, their personal lives and sexualities exploited for public consumption. While many of these actresses were incredibly talented, they were reduced to their relationships and their appearances rather than being allowed to define themselves. These stories remind us that the way we view and treat women's sexuality has always been a point of contention, both in Hollywood and in society at large. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into Hollywood history. Let me know in the comments what you think about these actresses and how they were treated by the media. Until next time, take care and stay curious.